Hey guys, welcome to Advent with Trent. This is part 5 in our series, this last part as we close out the Advent season. And you might be saying to yourself, well, isn't it a little late? We're well past the Christmas season now into the first week of January. And yes, I will get to that in just a minute, but for now, I just wanted to say thank you so much to those of you who have joined me throughout this December. This is certainly one of the most unique Decembers that I think I've ever experienced in my life, and I'm sure you might have had a similar experience as well. Probably didn't have Christmas gatherings as you would have hoped. Probably had a few people missing from your table. Maybe it just was a little bit different for you like it was for me during this season of COVID shutdown. And I just want to thank you for tuning in, for listening. Hopefully this was inspiring and encouraging to you during this season. A special thank you to those of you who subscribed, who liked our videos, and who sent us responses and emails and connected with us on our social media, or simply just signed up to join one of our men's groups at Ada Bible Church. Thanks guys for reaching out. Back to where we started. We started the first week of December, and one of the things that I was hoping through all of this whole series was simply to encourage us to prepare our hearts, to anticipate and reflect on Christ's, his birth at Christmas, but also anticipate and look forward to Christ coming back for his bride one day. In scripture, it reminds us that he is making a house with many rooms in his father's house, and he will come back for us one day to return to his father's home in glory with us. I hope that this has been a season of preparing our hearts to celebrate that. And then I hope during that about 2 weeks ago now that you were able to celebrate that with your family, with your friends, your loved ones, with those in your church community. I hope you were able to really celebrate Christ's birth together and slow down and actually be able to reflect on it. Now back to the question at the beginning of this video isn't it a little too late to discuss this? There's a reason for this, and that's this. Being able to talk about things after they happen is important. Circling back and reflecting on what happened matters. I think unless we're able to slow down, to turn around and look at what just happened and to be able to be honest about it, then I think we're missing the full impact that something can have on our lives. And so with that in mind, I think it's important to ask the question, now that Advent's over, did it matter? I mean, did it matter to you? Was Advent a meaningful season of reflection for you? Was it a time of joy and hope and peace and love? Were you able to actually reflect on those things in your life? I hope so. I hope that it did matter. But the bigger question behind that is, did Jesus coming matter to you? Did celebrating his birthday in the way that he called us to matter to you? And by matter, I mean, did it have an effect? Did it have impact on you? Did it last longer than just that moment for you? I think knowing that Jesus came to this earth is important, and knowing that he came and that he was God and man, and knowing that, we can know him and get to know him better and grow in relationship with him. That's important to know those things. But we can know from, as we read through the pages of scripture, there are a lot of people in this big book we call the Bible who knew about God, who knew about Jesus, and didn't really matter. They knew what Christ called them to do, and it didn't matter. We even know from stories of Jesus' experiences, and I'll put some of those references down below in the description. Like in the book of Mark, we know a story in there where demons even knew who Jesus was. James 2 talks about it. It says, even the demons believe in God, and they shudder at the thought of him. Knowing God, knowing Jesus is one thing. Believing and having faith in him is another. I'll tell you a quick story. Back in my mid-20s, I had gotten out of college, had a job, And but I was still kind of living like a college kid in a lot of ways. I was eating and drinking whatever I wanted. I was hanging out with my friends till all hours of the night, and I really wasn't exercising all that much. I was just kind of letting myself go, if you know what I mean. And especially with this newfound professional life and being able to enjoy life with my new bride, my health took a back seat. Open enrollment season came around kind of like it did for most people last month for healthcare insurance. And during that time, discovered that I was obese. And that was a shocker to me, right? Like, wow, I am really? I mean, I know I feel kind of bad, like I don't feel in shape. I know I've been getting sick a lot more lately, and come to think of it, I haven't been sleeping well at all, and I've got some digestive health issues. Probably should have seen those signs a little bit sooner. I didn't feel obese, so I didn't think I was, but at some point the evidence was right in front of me. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The numbers were there, it was clear. I had gotten obese. And I'd love to tell you that from that moment on, changed my life, and I went down a different path, but that wasn't what happened. I did feel bad for a little while. I was like, oh man, I feel so bad about this. I want to be healthier. I don't like this. Okay, so I'm going to try really hard to eat good, and I'm going to exercise a little bit more. And it's safe to say that didn't last long. And now you can point to a bunch of different elements of a lack of motivation, but the fact of the matter is I was given information that should have changed my life, and it didn't. But there was this day that changed everything. It was late summer 2009, and my wife, she came to me and said, we're expecting our first child. And shortly after that, I remember I was going for a walk to the park, and it dawned on me. I realized that based on my current health condition, being obese, I'm the provider of my family. And frankly, I couldn't do that in the shape I was in. I couldn't provide and protect for my family as I knew I should. Now, mind you, I wasn't like a police officer or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I worked a desk job in an office. But even then, the aches, the pains, the illnesses, frankly, the lagging mental health that was kind of coupled with this bad physical health issue, those things led to a life that I hated. I hated who I had become. I didn't like it. And frankly, knowing the information before didn't really do much until I had this powerful moment of transition, this critical point that I came to this fork in the road, and I had to decide for myself, was I going to be honest with myself, to look at the facts and see what was really going on? Was I going to receive that with that information of truth on me? Did I really want to continue down this path that was unsustainable? It wasn't going to be able to keep going the way it was. It wasn't fulfilling. I felt very unfulfilled in life in a lot of ways, but especially physically, I just felt terrible. It wasn't good. But also I realized those things were all tied to my ability to be able to love people well. You see, me providing for my family was a way for me to love them. And if I wasn't being able to be at work because I was sick, that I couldn't love my family well. You can't love your family well when you're 6 feet in the ground because you died early from a heart attack. You can't love your family well if you're not taking care of yourself, and I wasn't. And so I chose to be honest with myself, to receive that truth and love, to be able to take responsibility for it, to take that on my shoulders and realize no one can do this but me. I have to do this for myself. Knowing the information that I knew didn't necessarily change anything until I chose to see it and believe it for what it was. I started to believe that this really was as damaging as it was. We can know Jesus. I mean, there's historical, evidence and documents. There's proof throughout history that he had large crowds, that he did miraculous things, that he died, that he rose from the grave. There's evidence all across history for this. We can know these things. We can know as we read through Scripture that we who do choose to believe in Jesus, that We should be exhibiting fruits of the Spirit like love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and self-control. We can know these things, but until we choose to believe those things are real, and until we choose to do something about them, we're not really doing what Christ has called us to do. We're not really changing. Acts 17 talks about a day of judgment coming, that God will judge all people, and that we can have assurance of this because of Jesus' death and resurrection, life, death, and resurrection. We can know that, but until we actually believe that and start to reflect on what that really means for us, that's not going to change much. But when we do believe and we do start to, man, I think this is true, then that changes everything. Romans 3 talks about how all have said there's not one righteous, no, not one, except through the blood and death and life of Jesus Christ and his resurrection. There's no righteousness apart from that. So no matter how good we are or believe we are, no matter how good we think we are, that doesn't gonna match the standard of what Christ or of what God requires for this reunited relationship with him. Until we actually start to believe these things to be true and feel the weight of them, we can't really do much about it. It's not going to really change anything. Romans 12 calls us to have our hearts and our minds transformed. We got to transform ourselves into a likeness of Christ, but we got to ask ourselves, does it matter? So, as you reflected this Advent, it's important to know that Jesus Christ came to earth. It's important to know that he lived a perfect life. It's important to know these things. It's not that those things aren't important. It's just that we can't just stay at knowing. We have to move past knowing to believing and to doing something about that. So the question I have for you, do you believe? And will you do something about it? Now, this stuff that we've been talking about here, maybe you've been talking in your small groups, maybe you've been talking with a friend or a loved one about the Christmas season, but do you believe it? And are you going to do something about it? Is this going to matter to you beyond December 2020 and into 2021? Is it going to change the way you do things in your life as a result of that? Let me ask you this. Who do you have in your corner to help you do that? I think one of the toughest things for me, especially early on, when I was unhealthy and trying to get healthier, was I was trying to do it alone. And it wasn't until I started to bring other people into my life to help point me in a good direction and start to learn from others that I really started to see real, lasting change, to be able to be healthier, to be able to love and provide for my family the way that God calls me to. So who do you have around you to be able to help you go in that right direction? To be able to walk toward Christ and have knowing him matter to you, to have an effect, a lasting effect. If you don't have anyone in your life like that, if you have more questions about some of the things you've heard here today or in the past 4 videos, feel free to connect with us. You can go to our website, adabible.org/men. Email me at men@adabible.org. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram as well and be able to ask questions and engage there. Or you can just sign up for a small group as well. We'd love to connect you with other guys that are pointed toward a life-changing relationship with Christ. But like I started the video, at the end of the day, I just hope you have been encouraged to be able to dig into Scripture for yourself. I hope you've been inspired to be able to wrestle with some of the stuff with other guys in your life. And I hope that you remember that the purposes of the Lord will stand, so you can stand firm knowing that. I love you guys. I can't wait to see you again someday.